Hi everyone, it's Margaret with Creative Stamping with Margaret. I'm finally back doing videos. Um, it's hard to believe it's September already. August was a blur for me. There was just a lot going on, so I did not have the opportunity to take time to do any videotaping. But don't fret, I have lots of projects lined up, so I'll be putting up videos a little bit more timely. But I'm excited today to show you how to color the apples that are in the Apple Harvest stamp set. You'll find the stamp set is in the mini catalog, and it's on page 54. I just love all of the different apples. We've got a full apple, then a branch of apples with one cut open, and then the one that I'm going to show today is the branch of apples that has 4 apples on it. I'm going to use blends for coloring, and I will show you how I colored these and got a little bit of the shading in there. The great thing is Stampin' Up! Has come out with the Apple Blossoms die that coordinates with this Apple Harvest set. It was just released yesterday. The dies are only available during the month of September or while supplies last. So I will have all of the materials in the description of this video, so you can follow the link there and order your set, because you'll definitely want to get these. There's just a lot of different options. I've had a lot of fun coloring these. So the materials that I'm using today, I've stamped this on the shimmery white cardstock. The blends that I'm using for the apples, I'm using the Sweet Sorbet blends. For the stem, I am using the dark crumb cake. Also for the apples, I am using the dark fresh freesia. You could use any of the purple colors in the purple family. I use that to add a little bit more depth, because as you remember from elementary school and learning the color wheel, that red and blue make purple, so that works great for shading. And then for the leaves, I'm using the Old Olive blend set. And then of course I always have the little color lifter available if I need to do a little bit of repair. We're using Memento ink. Since we're using the alcohol-based markers, we will need to use the Memento, which is the water base. So let's get started. So first I'm going to pull in a piece of the shimmery white, and then I have the branch of apples on my large block. It also works great to put this on the Stamparatus. I made a card that uses a lot of the branches, and it was for a swap. So I placed this on my Stamparatus since I was doing multiple stamping. And we're going to just go ahead and press that down, make sure that we're getting a good impression. And there we have, I mean, this is gorgeous just like this. You could take the die, cut that out, and just put that on the card, and it's just a beautiful image. I always like to, when I stamp with the Memento, when I'm using the blends, I like to give it a few minutes to dry beforehand, just so I don't smear with my hand. Not so much the blends really won't smear it, but my hand does sometime. So I have one that I've already stamped that has been drying, so let's get started coloring. So the first thing I like to do, I'm going to start with the apples. So I'm taking my light sweet sorbet and I'm going to put down the color on the apple first. And as you notice, I am not going all the way up to the edge. The thing about the blends and the alcohol ink, it will spread a little after you apply it. So I just go ever so slightly inside the edge. So we just fill in this apple with the light. And depending on what I'm coloring, I like to go light to dark. But you'll note when I show you the coloring of the leaves, on a smaller object, sometimes I tend to reverse that. You just find whatever method works best for you. And then I'm going to come in now with my dark fresh freesia. And I'm going to put some shadows in. And I like to think of it as if an object is behind another one, there's going to be a shadow where that other object overlaps it. So in this case, we have this leaf that is across the apple. So there's going to be a little bit of a shadow, shading. So we'll put some shading along the edge of that leaf. And then, of course, the designers of the stamp, they added some little bit of shading as well, because as you know, if you look at your apples at the market, they will have varying colors. Now I'm coming in with the dark sweet sorbet, and I'm pulling that shadow out just a little bit more. And now, to blend it even more, I'm going to pull out the light sweet sorbet and just go along the edge where that shadowing was put in. So now let's move to this other apple. And when working with the alcohol markers, I just work in one section at a time because it does dry rather quickly as the alcohol evaporates. So I want to make sure that it hasn't dried so that I can't get the ink to blend. Now back with our dark fresh freesia. And there again, this leaf is atop the apple. So we'll put a little shading there and go along these lines that were put in by the designers. And I always replace the tops on my markers just so they don't dry out. I find it does extend the shelf life of the markers when I'm working, if I just take that extra little bit of time to pop the lid back on. So now we'll move to the two apples on the bottom. And that was the light Sweet Sorbet. Now I'm going in with my dark Freesia, and here I'm just going where the designer on the stamp added a little bit of contrast. I'm not going all the way around the apple. Now we're back to our dark Sweet Sorbet. And I'm pulling that in just a little bit more with short little strokes. And we'll blend that once again with a little bit of the light. Now for our last apple. There again, I like to put down my light base. So on this apple, we have a couple different areas where we're going to be adding shading. There is a lot more shading on this than on some of the other apples, because if you'll recall, when you look at an apple, the area that's around the stem is always a little bit darker. So we're going to darken that. And then we have this leaf that overlaps the apple, as well as we have the apple that's up against it that's also casting shadow. So we'll go along the edge of that, the same along the edge of these leaves. Now we're back with our dark sorbet. And I'll take just the light, just to blend all of those in just a little. And as you see here on this apple, it did spread a little into the leaf, the ink did. So I'm going to take my color lifter, and I like to take the pencil end. That's what I call that. I'm not sure what the official, but it's not the brush end, it's the pencil end. And then I just dot it whenever I go to erase a section, lift that color up. I find it easiest just to take the tip end and blot it a little. If you add too much, you'll smear it more as you go to pull, if you try pulling it. So I find just dotting it, and that color lifts up, and then you'll just let it sit and dry, and that color then will have been erased or lifted. I think of this as like an eraser on a pencil. So let's go ahead and color our stem. And I'm not adding shading to this. I'm just letting the natural or the stamp where the designers have added little areas. I'm just letting that be. It's not really the focus of this project, so that's why I'm not so concerned about doing shading. If you wish to do it, go right ahead, but I'm keeping this a little bit simpler. Let's see, I think I have all of those. Okay. Now let's color some leaves. Now, as I said at the start of this video, I typically go from light to dark, but in the case of these leaves, I'm going to go dark to light. So I'm going to take my pencil end of my marker and the finer tip, and I'm going to follow the veins of the leaves, and then where the designers have added a little dark, I'm adding a little shading along those. And then this leaf that's behind is going to be darker. So I'm just doing it with the dark old olive and just leaving a little light spot where a little bit of light may be hitting that leaf. I made 15 cards that had this spray of branch of apples on it. So I stamped all of my images using my Stamparatus, and then I have a little lap tray that I use for crafting if I'm in front of the TV or in another room. So I sat and was coloring as the TV was on. Not that I was watching it, but I would listen and then every once in a while look up and see if something interesting was going on the TV show. But it really works great to stamp and color a lot. But I found that it was just very therapeutic to sit and color. It's relaxing, takes you back to, or it takes me back to my childhood days of coloring books. It was always exciting when we got a new coloring book. And then this process, I just continue for each of the leaves. And there again, you just sort of think about areas where you would see things dark, leaves dark, or any image. If you're doing flowers, if you're doing other type of fruits or even animals, you think of where something is overlapping it. And in this case, this leaf is behind the apple, so it is going to have shadows cast along where it's being overlapped. And I saw one spot that I missed on this stem going to the apple, so I'm going to fill that in while it is fresh on my mind. Let me pick up the dark, start back with the dark here. this one is behind that apple. But then the area that's turned up, that's going to be a little bit lighter, because if you think about it, the light is going to be hitting that, so it's just a touch lighter. And we just repeat this entire process for all of our leaves. And as you notice, I'm not doing all of them at the same time. I'm doing a couple at a time, and there again, I want my area to stay a little bit wetter. I want to get in there to help blend that ink before it starts to dry and set. Here we have one leaf on top of another, so there again, that area is going to be a shade darker. The one on the top is going to be a little bit lighter. But I color it a little bit darker where it's up against our apple. While I'm coloring, I want to remind you to be sure to check out my blog, creativestampingwithmargaret.com. I'll be posting the project that I have made using this branch of apples. It will be posted on my blog later today. And I'll also be linking this video to that. And also, please take the time to subscribe. Hit that little subscribe button and subscribe so that you will get notifications when I post another video. I have, as I said earlier, I have lots of projects. Most of them are complete. I just need to video how to replicate a few of the projects. I have another apple project to show you, and that one I did watercolor. So I will show you how to use watercolor if you prefer to try that method instead of using the blends. And with fall coming soon, there'll be lots of apples in the market, so you can use a fresh apple to follow along and color. There we are up underneath that apple, so there's a little bit of shading in that area. we just pull that ink as that blends. You see how well that blends as these are drying, how you've got your shading, the different areas of the leaf, how it does, much like our apples have done. Sometimes I like to go back and add and blend just a little bit more as I see how it's laying out. So now around the tip of this leaf, there's going to be a shadow as that overlaps that. And then this leaf is going to have a shadow there that's cast onto the leaf below. Now we're back with our light old olive. And we'll pull and blend that. So now there is our finished branch of apples that we have colored using the blends. In my description, I will list the colors of the blends that I have used, as well as I'll put the information for the Apple Harvest Bundle that is available during the month of September so that you could get the Apple Blossoms die. The Apple Harvest stamp set is in the mini catalog, so it will continue to be available after the month of September. But you'll definitely want to get these Blossoms dies to coordinate with your projects to help cut and coordinate. Be sure to check out my blog so you can see what project I've added this branch of apples to. And one last thing, if you are a subscriber to Southern Living, their latest September 22 issue on page 111, they have drawings of different apples. I saw this and I got so excited because my next venture using our Apple Harvest set will be to try to replicate some of the looks that they have here. Here with the green apple, that will be perfect to try with this apple that two apples that we have that has the exposed front. But I just thought I would point that out. And as you see, they've got some of the apples have yellow and green. The red apples do. So, and then of course we have the yellow apple with the little blush of pink or red on them. And then various types of leaves. I just wanted to point that out to you because sometimes when you're looking through magazines or different publications, you can get your ideas from that as well. This is Margaret. Thanks for joining me. Again, check out creativestampingwithmargaret.com for a finished project using this branch of apples. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll get alerted on my next video. Thank you.